Hello, everybody, and welcome to Outstanding English. During today's lesson, we will talk about how Thanksgiving is celebrated in the United States. We're going to go over some useful vocabulary. We'll have a check for understanding after that vocabulary. And then we have two dialogues with checks for understanding, all about how Thanksgiving is celebrated and about its history. So we'll go over quite a bit today. If you are watching live, feel free to let me know where you are watching from in the chat. And if you are watching a replay, feel free to let me know where you're watching from as a comment. So any messages, any questions in the chat, feel free to ask and I'll get to them as soon as I can. And if you have a question while you're watching the replay, feel free to leave a comment and I'll be sure to answer your question. So let's get started here. All right, Thanksgiving falls on the fourth Thursday of every November in the United States. It's also celebrated, but has some different traditions in Canada. But Canadian Thanksgiving is celebrated on the second Monday in October. So different days for these two different Thanksgivings. And it's all about being thankful for what you have. Now, Thanksgiving in the US hasn't always been held on the fourth Thursday of every November. In 1863, the first Thanksgiving that was made a holiday, this was during the American Civil War, and President Lincoln wanted a holiday to help unite the divided country. They were in the middle of the Civil War, so he made Thanksgiving the last Thursday in November. Now, usually there are 4 Thursdays in November, but occasionally, just occasionally, there are 5 Thursdays in November, and that was fine, but we had some trouble later when in 1939, the last Thursday in November fell on November 30th. And in 1939, we were in the middle of not in the middle, towards the end of the Great Depression. And President FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, moved Thanksgiving from the last Thursday in November. He moved it to the second to last Thursday in November because he wanted to give people more time to do their Christmas shopping. He wanted people to start their Christmas shopping early. As I said, the economy was not good at that time. And because he moved it early, people hated this. They started calling it Franksgiving because it was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, his first name Franklin. So they called this new early Thanksgiving Franksgiving. It was very unpopular, bad move by him. So 2 years later, in 1941, Congress passed a bill and FDR signed it into law. He didn't want to sign it into law, but he was kind of forced to, and which made Thanksgiving the fourth Thursday of every November after that. So Thanksgiving is held on the fourth Thursday of every November in the United States. And a few of these words I'm going to go over kind of quickly, then go kind of back and forth as I explain briefly the history of Thanksgiving. And I'll also review this a little during our dialogue towards the end of the lesson. So here we have the Mayflower, and this is a boat that left England with the Pilgrims right here, who were leaving England because they couldn't exercise their religion freely in England. So they took the Mayflower to Plymouth. They landed in Plymouth, Massachusetts, which then was not the United States yet. It was still a colony of Great Britain. And here they met with Native Americans because they had a very difficult time adjusting to life in the Americas. There was a tribe of Native Americans called the Wampanoag tribe, and they showed the Pilgrims how to grow crops and basically help them survive their first winter in the Americas. So because of their help from the Wampanoag tribe, the Pilgrims were able to have a good harvest. A harvest are the crops that you pick, and it can also be a verb to mean to gather crops that you grow. So harvest can be both a noun and a verb. It's either the crops that you pick at the end of your growing season, or to gather crops that you grew. So to celebrate this bountiful harvest, when we have a good harvest, we say a bountiful harvest. To celebrate this bountiful harvest that they had, the Pilgrims invited the Wampanoag tribe to have a 3-day feast. And during this 3-day feast, they ate a lot and they played games. And this is probably one of the few examples of good relations between a Native American tribe and a group of settlers from Europe. So during this Thanksgiving Day feast, they were celebrating, their partnership with the Native American tribe, and they were celebrating being thankful for having their successful first harvest. And one of the most important things about Thanksgiving is that it is a time for a family gathering. So Thanksgiving is the busiest travel time of the year in the United States. A lot of people, if they live in different cities than their families, will fly to the city that they're meeting everybody in, or get together with their family during this time. And the main centerpiece is having a turkey. It's usually roasted or baked. And here they have turkey because during the first Thanksgiving between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans, it is believed, according to notes from someone who was there in their diary, they wrote that they had wild fowl for the feast, and that could have been either wild turkey, wild geese, or wild duck, because those birds were living in the area at the time when the Pilgrims arrived. So turkey is the main bird, and it's eaten because, I mean, it's huge. If you have a big family gathering, you can get a large turkey. They get up to, I think, 10 kilograms. So you can get a pretty big bird and feed a lot of people with that. And some other common dishes during Thanksgiving include stuffing, and stuffing is a starchy ingredient, which is like bits of bread, and it's often mixed with vegetables, sometimes ground meat, and herbs and spices. And it's called stuffing because it is often cooked by stuffing it into the cavity or inside of the turkey as it is cooking. And it can also be baked or cooked separately. So that's stuffing, a common side dish during Thanksgiving. Another common dish is mashed potatoes here. So we have mashed potatoes and gravy, which goes over it. So gravy is a thickened sauce made by mixing the fat and juices that ooze from a meat while it is cooking. So we have mashed potatoes and gravy here. And a lot of people like to put their gravy on almost everything that is served, both the turkey and the stuffing, as well as the mashed potatoes here. So my next big item is cranberry sauce. And this can be either purchased in a can, like this picture on the left, or it can be homemade, like this picture on the right, which I believe is simply maybe just mashing a bunch of cranberries together. I'm sure there's more to it, but I'm not sure. I've never made cranberry sauce from scratch, so I don't know. If we say we make something from scratch, it means we use the whole food to make it. We don't get it out of a can or from a box. It's made from scratch. And then another common food during Thanksgiving is cornbread, and this is a quick bread made from cornmeal, and cornmeal is just ground up corn. So cornbread is another popular food to have during your Thanksgiving meal. And my next one are pies. I have a picture of a pumpkin pie here, an apple pie here, and a cherry pie here. It's common to have a pie for dessert for Thanksgiving dinner. I think another popular one that I didn't include here would be pecan pie. That's also very popular during Thanksgiving. But I think the most popular one for Thanksgiving is probably a pumpkin pie, maybe followed by a pecan pie. I'll have to look that up later. And then this is a relatively more recent addition, well, actually centerpiece of Thanksgiving meals. And it looks like the font kind of moved things around as I imported it. But this is called a turducken. And you see in the name here, we have which is for turkey, and we have duck, and we have kin for chicken. And a turducken is made by taking a chicken, which is pretty small, and stuffing it into the cavity of a duck, and then taking your duck, which is larger, and stuffing it into the cavity of a turkey, and then cooking it all together. And turduckens became popular because there was a sports broadcaster, an NFL sports broadcaster named John Madden. He was a former coach of the Oakland Raiders, and he would do announcing during football games on Thanksgiving. And he kind of popularized the turducken by mentioning it, I think, a few years in a row. And I believe there was one year where he actually had a turducken on the set and showed the audience what it looked like inside. I'm sure you can find that video on YouTube of John Madden either talking about a turducken or cutting open a turducken and showing everybody what's inside. I've never made a turducken. I live in Taiwan, so my oven's pretty small, so we definitely can't bake something so big, such a big bird. So that's the turducken, everybody. If you're lucky, maybe you'll get to enjoy one in the future. And also, what commonly happens during Thanksgiving, because you're cooking so much food, is that you have leftovers. Leftovers are any food that you cook that you don't finish. So if you cook too much turkey, then maybe for the next week, you might be carrying turkey sandwiches to work or slowly finishing off your leftovers over the course of several days. And my next big vocabulary item is cornucopia. Let me say this right. Cornucopia. And the cornucopia is from the Latin words cornu. I think it's right, cornu. I don't speak Latin, which means horn. You see kind of the horn shape. And copia, which means plenty. And the cornucopia is a symbol of abundance. So Thanksgiving isn't like Halloween where people put up skeletons and jack-o'-lanterns. And it's not like Christmas where people put up trees and Santa Clauses in their yard. But some places will have some decorations. So if you walk into like a hotel lobby around Thanksgiving time, you might see a cornucopia in the lobby. And if you go to a restaurant, you might see a cornucopia at the entrance. And this is just a symbol of abundance and nourishment. So you see it's kind of a horn-shaped basket, and out of it comes these whole fruits and vegetables. So here in this picture, we got some different pumpkins. Looks like we got some grapes and some corn here and a big sunflower on top. And my next special vocabulary word is a parade. So one of the activities that people like to do on Thanksgiving is watch a parade or go see a parade in person. The most famous Thanksgiving parade is the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The first one was held in 1924, and it's held in New York City every year. And it has a band, has many bands actually, bands, balloons, and floats. So you see this Kermit doll, this frog here, that's a float. I'm sorry, that's a balloon. And this turkey scene, that's a float. A float is a 3D scene or figure that is built either on a truck or tractor or pulled by a truck or tractor, and it goes through the parade, usually behind the bands. So we have a float featuring a turkey and a balloon featuring Kermit the Frog. So my next special item of activities Americans like to participate in is watch NFL football games on TV. So Thanksgiving games started with college football in 1876, and then later with professional games. And since 1978, Detroit has hosted a Thanksgiving Day game every year, and so has the Dallas Cowboys. And since 2006, a third Thanksgiving Day game has been played, and they schedule a different hosting team each year. So because I think the games don't overlap, so you'll have the Detroit game will start at like 12:30 p.m. I think 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then the game in Dallas will start at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then the late game will start at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. I think those times are right. I'll have to look up a schedule after this. So very common to watch parades on TV, and common to watch football games on TV if your family's into that sort of thing. And the next big event, well, not really a big event, but an event during Thanksgiving is the pardoning of a turkey. And I took some notes on this. I want to get these dates right. All right, where did I put the notes for this? Okay, so pardoning of a turkey. First, let's go over the word pardon. So pardon means a government decision to be relieved of some of the legal consequences resulting from committing a crime. So if someone is pardoned of their crime, they're still guilty of that crime, but they don't need to go to jail for it, or they can be released from prison early for it. So a presidential pardon is when the president of the United States pardons an individual so they don't have to carry out any more of their sentence. And the first sparing of a turkey's life started when Lincoln was president, because President Lincoln was gifted a turkey which was supposed to be slaughtered and cooked for Thanksgiving dinner, but his son Tad really liked the turkey, so they decided to let it live, and I think it was their pet after that. It was the presidential family pet. And then John F. Kennedy in 1963 also spared the life of a turkey, but they didn't officially use the words pardon for a turkey until George Herbert Walker Bush in 1989. So the first George Bush, George H.W. Bush, pardoned a turkey officially in 1989, and presidents have been officially pardoning turkeys every year since. So when a turkey is pardoned, the president of the United States is presented with a turkey. I think recently they've been doing 2 turkeys, and they'll say some nice words about the turkey, and then the turkey will be, instead of slaughtered and served for dinner, it will be let to live the rest of its days on a farm. So that's pardoning of a turkey. It's always on TV when it happens. I'm sure you can find examples of it. And over here, another activity that Americans participate are food drives. A food drive is you make a donation of canned or boxed foods to a charity, and that charity distributes or spreads this food out to families that need it. So food drives are in full swing during Thanksgiving, around Thanksgiving. And also another activity is volunteering. So if there is a homeless shelter, they will have a Thanksgiving Day dinner there, and you can volunteer and help out in any way you can to make sure that the needy are taken care of during that day. So these are some activities that Americans participate in during Thanksgiving Day. And the day after Thanksgiving is Black Friday. So this year it will fall on Friday, November 24th. And on Black Friday, several stores, the ones that were closed the day before for Thanksgiving, open up really early, and shoppers get special deals. You may have seen videos online about big crowds of people waiting for the doors to open, and as soon as they open, they rush in and try to get the product that they want at a good price. So that's Black Friday. And because it's so crazy on Black Friday, some groups have started this day called Buy Nothing Day, which is also on that day, which encourages people to just not buy anything on Black Friday, so that maybe these big stores will decide to close that day so that their workers can get an additional day off. And in addition to Black Friday, which is also Buy Nothing Day, the Monday after Thanksgiving this year will be the 27th of November, is Cyber Monday. And this is when there are sales, discounted products on websites. So if you go to websites where you can buy things, they'll often have a Cyber Monday sale where you can get a big discount on an item. So check that out. If you like shopping online, you might be able to get a good deal on Cyber Monday. And my next special item over here is my check for understanding. So I have a few questions here. If you have difficulty with them, then feel free to review this after our lesson at a time of your convenience. So my first question says, when is Thanksgiving celebrated in the US? What are three popular foods Americans eat during Thanksgiving? What are two things many Americans watch during Thanksgiving? What special shopping events happen after Thanksgiving? And according to this lesson, what is something you can do to help people who are less fortunate during Thanksgiving? So if you got all those, great. If not, feel free to rewind later and check it out again. So our first dialogue here, we got two today, is about how is Thanksgiving celebrated. And we have two people here. The first one, I forgot the name I left. Oh yeah, Andre and Yasmin. So Andre is an international student, Yasmin is an American, and Andre has some questions about how Thanksgiving is celebrated. So listen carefully. It says, "Hi, I've heard a lot about Thanksgiving, and I'm curious about the traditions associated with this holiday in your country. Could you tell me more about how families celebrate it here?" "Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanksgiving is all about family and being thankful. It's my favorite holiday." "That sounds wonderful. So, what do families typically do on Thanksgiving Day?" "Well, a common tradition is gathering with extended family and friends for a special meal, usually in the afternoon or evening. The centerpiece of the meal is often a roasted turkey, along with various side dishes like mashed potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and pumpkin pie for dessert." "Ah, the famous Thanksgiving turkey. I've heard a lot about it. What's the significance of the turkey?" "The turkey is a symbol of abundance and is a reference to the early history of the holiday when the Pilgrims and Native Americans shared a feast that may have included wild turkey. It's become a traditional part of the meal." "That's interesting. Are there any other common activities or customs?" "Yes. Some families watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade on TV. It's a famous parade held in New York City with huge balloons, marching bands, and floats. Others enjoy watching American football games, which are a big part of Thanksgiving. And many families take time to express what they're thankful for, which is an essential part of the holiday's spirit." Expressing gratitude sounds like a meaningful tradition. Do people exchange gifts like in some other holidays? No. Thanksgiving is more about coming together and sharing a meal in gratitude. It's not a gift giving holiday like Christmas. However, some people start their Christmas shopping on Black Friday, which is the day after Thanksgiving. Some stores open early and have special deals. Got it. I'm looking forward to experiencing my first Thanksgiving here. It sounds like a beautiful holiday. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's a time to appreciate the people in our lives and the blessings we have. Why don't you come celebrate with my family? I would love that. Thanks. So we got three important questions here. The first is, what is the significance of the Thanksgiving turkey? That was in our dialogue. What do families take time to express during Thanksgiving? And what is Andre looking forward to? So, our next dialogue is a little bit more about the history of Thanksgiving. Some of this I went over when I was talking about the vocabulary, but it's a little refresher to help you remember it. So, here we go. Same two people, Andre and Yasmin. "I've been hearing a lot about Thanksgiving lately, but I'm not really sure why it's celebrated. Can you tell me more about its history?" "Of course. It goes back to when the Pilgrims, who were English settlers, arrived in Plymouth, Massachusetts in 1620. They were seeking religious freedom and a new life in America." "So, what happened that's so important for Thanksgiving?" "Well, the Pilgrims suffered a difficult first winter. They had a hard time finding food and adapting to the new environment. Fortunately, the Wampanoag Native Americans, who were already living in the area, helped the Pilgrims by teaching them essential farming and survival skills." "So the Native Americans saved their lives?" "They definitely did. By the time autumn came, the Pilgrims had successfully harvested their first crops with the help of the Wampanoag. In November 1621, they decided to hold a feast to give thanks for their successful harvest and to celebrate their cooperation and newfound relationship with the Wampanoag. So the first Thanksgiving was more of a celebration of unity and gratitude than just a meal. Yes, exactly. The first Thanksgiving was more of a 3-day event filled with feasting and games. It was a way for the Pilgrims to express their gratitude for the help and support they received from the Native Americans. That's such a beautiful story of coming together and showing appreciation. Yes, it is. Thanksgiving has evolved over the centuries, and now it's celebrated on the fourth Thursday in November. That's really interesting. Is there anything else I should know about Thanksgiving? Well, it's also a time for people to volunteer and help those less fortunate. Many Americans participate in charity events such as food drives during the holiday season to give back to their communities. That's wonderful. I look forward to experiencing my first Thanksgiving here. It seems like a meaningful and heartwarming holiday. So, I have some questions here, something to think about. It said, why did the Pilgrims leave England? How did the Wampanoag Native Americans help the Pilgrims? Why did the Pilgrims hold a feast in November 1621? And this last question isn't really from the dialogue, but it's something that you can kind of reflect on as you leave this lesson. And that's, what are you thankful for this holiday season? So even if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, you may be thankful for something. Maybe you're thankful because everyone in your family is healthy. Maybe you've recently finished school. Maybe you've got a job you've always wanted. So think about that. What are you thankful for this holiday season? You can let me know as a comment. And I just want to let everybody know that next week I will not be holding a live lesson, but the following week on November 24th at 8 o'clock p.m. GMT plus 8 Standard Time, I'll be holding a live lesson about special vocabulary, about being at a pharmacy. So I hope to see you there. I hope if you do celebrate Thanksgiving that you have a wonderful holiday. And if not, well, take a moment to reflect on what you are thankful for. Thank you for coming, everyone, and I'll see you in the future.